Hello doctors, welcome back to a series of NEET MDS 2021 recall. In this video, we are going to see about sampling methods from the subject community dentistry. So the question they have asked in NEET MDS 2021 exam was, children from a gated community were examined and those with visible lesion were shortlisted. So among them, a few were selected who needed restorative treatment. The type of sampling is, so here they are taking a sample for further study on a type of restoration or restorative treatment. So because they have selected a particular type of lesion and they have selected the restorative treatment that they want to do. So here, what kind of sample is this? So is it multi-phase sampling? Is it purposive sampling? Is it multi-stage sampling, or is it systematic sampling? So let us just see what is sampling and what kinds of sampling that we have. So sampling is nothing but it is process of selecting observations to provide an adequate description and inferences of population. So we are selecting a few observations which will provide adequate description and inferences of the population. Sample. So what is a sample? We know sample. We take samples of a lot of things, right? Like before we buy fruits, we take a sample of a bite of the fruit to test whether the fruit is good or not, right? So such kind of thing is known as sample. So it is a unit that is selected from a population. So there we are doing it on a fruit or a sweet. So here we are taking it from a population. Okay, with that represents whole population. Of course, when we are buying 1 kg of sweet, if you are just eating one bite, it represents the whole 1 kg, right? So the purpose is to draw inference. So what inference? So here, if that sweet is good, it means that whole 1 kg will be good, right? So that is what is the inference. So the sample design process. So we have a process to which sample is designed. So first of all, the first step what we do is we define the population. So we define the population, what kind of population we are taking. Like it involves the age, sex, gender, everything we define. Then second step is we determine the sampling frame. Sampling frame is that the magnitude of the sample that we are taking. And third thing is the select sampling techniques. So that sampling techniques is what we are going to see further in the slides. Then the fourth one is determine the sample size. Okay, the sample size is magnitude of the size. And the fifth one is execute the sampling process. So we'll, after selecting the sampling technique, we execute the process according to that technique. Then the types of sampling designs. So the types of sampling designs are two types: probability sampling method and non-probability sampling method. So these are two types of sampling methods that we have. So please keep in mind this flow chart. So under probability sampling, we have simple random sampling, systematic, stratified, cluster, and multi-stage random. And under non-probability, we have convenience, judgment, quota, and snowball. Okay, so these are the different sampling methods that we have. Then coming to multi-phase sampling. So what is a multi-phase sampling? So this is a method of sampling in which the part of the information is collected from whole population and part from the subsample. Okay, so a part of it is collected from whole population and a part from the subsample. What does that mean? So we'll see that from an example. So example, they are doing a TB survey. So Montague's test may be done in all subjects of the study of the population in first phase. But in the second phase, Montague's positive cases only undergo X-ray of the chest. So among the X-ray positive cases, sputum may be examined in the third phase. So that is what we do. As and when the phases change during our sampling, during our research, the size of the sample decreases depending upon the positive negative results, and the method which we test sample also differs in each phase. So that kind of sampling is known as multi-phase sampling. Then coming to purposive sampling. Purposive sampling is also known as judgmental sampling, selective sampling, or subjective sampling. So from the name itself, we can identify that it is it is done with a NEET purpose. So it is a form of non-probability sampling in which researchers rely on their own judgment when choosing the members of the population to participate in the surveys. So in the previous one, we did not select like on our own judgment, right? So in a TB survey, what we did, we first took out a sample, we first performed Montague's test on a random sample. We didn't take particular kind of sample, right? But here the the person who is studying, the researchers, makes the sample on his own judgment. So there is no other method. So the method for performing purposive sampling is fairly straightforward. All the researcher must do is reject the individuals who do not fit a particular profile. So I require a particular kind of person. So what I'll do, I'll reject the remaining things and I take only that kind of person for the sample, right? So however, researchers can use various techniques during purposive sampling depending upon the goal of their studies. Okay, so it is particularly biased based on the researcher. Okay. Then coming to the techniques for purposive sampling. So various techniques they use. So what are the techniques? The typical technique, typical case sampling is a type of purposive sampling that's useful when a researcher is looking to investigate a phenomena or trend as it compares to what is considered typical or average for members of a population. So it is a type of sampling where researcher is looking to investigate a phenomena or trend. So phenomena or trend, when we are trying to uh, investigate that to compare what is actually considered a traditional thing. So that kind of sampling is known as typical sampling. Then extreme or deviant. Extreme or deviant is the opposite of typical. It is used when researchers want to investigate the outliers from the norm where it comes to a particular trend. By looking into these outliers, researchers are able to develop a strong understanding of behavior patterns in the population. So in typical, what we'll do, we'll take something which is similar to the trend. But in the extreme or deviant technique, what we'll do, we'll take some sample which is extremely opposite to what we want to compare. Okay, so that is what. Then coming to critical case sampling is a type of purposive sampling in which one case is chosen for investigation because researchers believe that by investigating it, insights into other similar cases will be revealed. Okay, so they only take one case, okay, in critical sampling. Then a maximum variation. A maximum variation sample is also referred to as heterogeneous purposive sample. So in this, what they do, they are looking to examine a diverse range of cases that are all relevant to a particular phenomena or event. Okay, this allows researchers to gain as much insight from as many angles as possible for their survey. So this is somewhat good, right? So with maximum variation, we can what we do, we can study on a vast number of different populations. So that will also make like the survey very clear in many angles, right? So then homogeneous purposive sample is opposite. So of course these both are opposite. Okay, so what will happen? A maximum variation sample, as it is selected because members of the sample have shared characteristic. Here we have variety, right? Here we have the same thing, of course, homogeneous. Okay, so that is what these are the techniques. Benefits of the purposive sampling. So purposive sampling enables research to squeeze a lot of information out of the data that they have collected. Of course, they have selected a particular sample of their own choice, right? So of course, from that we can easily derive the data that we need from that sample in very short span of time. So this allows researchers to describe the major impact their findings have on the population. So it is a popular method used by researchers due to the extremely time and cost effective when compared to other sampling methods, of course. So that is what we can easily squeeze the information. So that is why it is extremely time and cost effective. Then a versatile research method that can be tailored to enhance a survey's effectiveness. Sometimes purposive sampling may be the only appropriate method available if there are limited number of primary data sources that can be contributed to the survey. Okay. So what are the drawbacks that we have in purposive sampling? We have said that before itself, right? It is prone to researcher bias. Of course, the researcher is so particular about the sample that he needs. So of course, it is subjected to researcher bias. So making it subjective and generalized assumption. Okay. Next, coming to multi-stage sampling. So the multi-stage sampling is the sampling procedures carried out in several stages. So each stage uses a random sampling technique. So the type of sampling technique that we use is random sampling techniques we use. So this is important. So this is employed in large or countrywide surveys. So this is the main difference between multi-phase and multi-stage. Okay, in multi-phase we take up a disease and we take up a particular group of people. Okay, but this kind of in multi-stage we do it in a large random surveys. Okay, in first stage random numbers of districts are chosen, and then coming to states, then random number of talukas, then villages. So like this we choose. So for example, what they have given in hookworm survey in school children in a district, 10% of talukas are chosen randomly, and then 10% of villages situated in those talukas, and among those chosen villages, 10% of schools randomly they are chosen. From those chosen schools, 10% of the students, so yielding a 10% sample of these district school children. So we have taken a very large sample and then have derived to a smaller part, but this is not the case in multi-phase sampling, right? We have seen that. Then coming to systematic sampling. So the systematic sampling consists of the following steps. So defining the population, of course, deciding on the sample size, yes, and listing the population and assigning the numbers to cases. Sampling frame is done like that, and calculating the sampling interval. So the total population size by desired sample size is equals to sampling interval. So selecting the first unit randomly and selecting every kth unit from it. So first unit is only selected randomly. So every kth unit, that is kth unit is nothing but nth unit, from there is selected. Okay. Then coming to the example, so for systematic study, for a study among the households of a locality, so what we do, first we number the houses, then 10% of the numbered houses are taken and a random number is selected from between 1 and 10. So then every 10th number is selected from that point. So for example, they have taken four number, from there every 10th number is taken, that is 14, 24, 34, etc. So in this we can observe that a regular interval has been taken, right? So this depends upon the size of the sample to be withdrawn and is known as the sampling interval. Okay. Then, so what are the advantages of systematic sampling? So systematic random sample also provides us with a sample that is representative of the population under study. Okay, it is a representative of the population of the study, and relative to the simple random sample, it may be more convenient when the patient is large, scattered, and not homogeneous. Okay, of course in households it is not homogeneous, right? It is heterogeneous kind of sample. We get different varieties of samples in a single thing, right? Then coming to disadvantages. So this disadvantages are that it can be carried out only if a complete list of the population is available. If the list of the population has some kind of periodic arrangement, and systematic sampling could pick out similar cases rather than completely random ones. Okay. Then coming back to the question. So the question they have asked, like, children from a gated community were examined. So gated community, here the sample is very limited. Okay. And children, age group, they have defined the age group. Okay. So it is a very limited sample, and those with visible lesion were shortlisted. So visible lesion people were only taken. Then among them, a few were selected who needed restorative treatment. So in phase 1, what they did, they have defined the population based on age and area, right? Among those also in phase 2, they have taken only those people they have which have visible lesion. Okay, right? Then in phase 3, they took the sample who needed treatment for that lesion. So like the sampling is done in different phases, right? So this kind of sampling is known as nothing but multi-phase sampling. So the answer is option A. If you like our video, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on our Instagram handles at Dogshala for dental content and at Dogshala Medical for medical content. You can also follow us on Telegram. Thank you.